Alright, rather than just greeting, that's a pretty boring page, I was thinking maybe I should throw in an image. And this is a good image. It's a little offensive, I think. And so we want to make sure that people are of age before they see this particular image. So I've added something to the form. I've added a radio button. Note that the type is radio, and that the name, that is the variable, what we're calling this, is age. Important here to note that it's age for both of these items. Some people were having some trouble with that when we were doing forms. If you want them to be in the same group, if you want the radio buttons to be in the same group, you need to have them be the same variable, the same name. So we have the same name, age and age, and then we have two values. You're either old or you're young. And if you're 18 or older, then you're old. And if you're 17 or younger, then you're young. I've also said that by default, usually for radio buttons, you should have one checked by default because you don't want it to leave it completely unchecked. And so by default, I've said check this one, the underage one. And normally you could leave off the equals this little bit here, the equals quote quote. But because it's XHTML, every single one of these properties has to have an equals something. And so here, there's nothing you can actually put in here that I guess you could say equals yes or something, but you have to have equals something. So what we've said is this particular item, the I'm young, when you load the page, that's the one that's going to be checked. So we can save that. And now let's go ahead, and I'm just using index.html. I'll put it, oops, this is actually a 6.3 form. File save. I'm going to put this in 6.3, and then we're going to put the catch in 6.3 as well. And let's go ahead and change that. We've got a new variable coming in, which is my age equals, and we'll bring in the post for age. All right. So now we bring in the name and the age at the top here. We say, hello, my name. And then we decide whether or not we want to include the image. And so we're going to do an if, and we have parentheses for the conditional. That is, well, what are we going to check? Well, if the age, oops, that's not what it is. It's the variable is called my age is, now remember, it can be one of two things, right? Going back here, it can either be young or old. So if the person is old, then do the things that are coming up underneath here. Couple of things to note here. Well, let me end it down here real quick. The curly brackets say do everything in the curly brackets. So we're going to say if this is true, if this bit right here is true, then do everything between the start of the curly bracket and the end of the curly bracket. And so we're going to put the image tag in here. A quick thing, this is not a typo. This one up here says put this in here. It's not really an equal sign, to remind you. This one says, are these two things equal? And there's other things we could do here. For example, this one says, are these two things unequal? Or we could do, is one larger than the other? Or equal to or larger than other. But if we want it to be, if we're checking on whether two things are the same, we need to make sure that this is a double equals. That lets us check and says, are these the same thing? And if they are, then this becomes true. And if they're different, then this becomes false. Okay? So if that's true, then we want to go ahead and have an image, and the source will be VF, vanityfair.jpg. So we need to make sure we upload that image as well. And we'll go ahead and save this. File save. We'll bring up our thing here, and we will start, oops, we need to go up one and start a 6.3, create directory 6.3, and into 6.3 we will drag our Vanity Fair picture, we will drag catch.php, and assuming we can find it, we will drag index.html. Alright, let's take a look and see what that looks like. We'll go to, gives us an option here. My name is Alex, let's just say. And let's say that I am 18 or older. Ah, it loads the picture. Okay, let's go back here. Let's say that I am Bob and I'm still a kid. In this case, it doesn't give us the photo. Why? Because it evaluated that if statement and figured it out. All right, what if we wanted to do a different photo if you were, if you happen to be a younger person. What we can have is else, and we're going to start a new bracketed area, and then we will end the bracketed area down here again. So what this says is if this is true, then do this bit. Otherwise, elsewise, do this, and we'll do a different image. We'll do image source equals VF expurgated. So we'll remove any of the offensive elements from the Vanity Fair folder, and so let's try that. We'll go ahead and save. File save. We'll bring up the new version of Catch and upload it. Here it is. And yes, we can overwrite it. Now we'll say I'm Joe and I'm 18 or older. So it shows me the original offensive image. And then I'm Killian and I'm still a kid, and it gives us the version without the offensive imagery. All right, so a quick note here. You may have noticed that we have two files here, VF and VF expurgated. We could actually, if we wanted to be fancy, go in and make some changes to make this much more efficient. What we could do is say, for example, now no matter what, we have an image. So I'm going to redo this and do it a little bit differently. Now I'm going to say image source equals, and the source is vf.jpg. I'm just going to do that, and rather than having this complicated if-then-else structure, I'm just going to do right in here, I'm going to insert some PHP right in the middle of the file name. Remember, we can put PHP anywhere, and in there I'm going to say if my age equals young. So if I'm young, then echo expurgated. That's the end of that statement, and I close. So to clarify, what this says is if my age is young, then I want to echo this statement, which puts in inserts expurgated into that little section there. Does that make sense? So I've brought that complicated thing down to one line. Now it's more complicated in here because we're actually inserting a PHP statement. Now if I'm not young, then it's okay. It's going to leave it just the way it was, hopefully. But if I am young, then oops, we didn't close that. We're missing the closing curly brackets. Then it's going to echo expurgated. So let's try that. I'm going to save it. File save. I'm going to bring over that catch. I'll load it up again. So let's try this. I'm still a kid. It gives me the expurgated version. I'm 18 or older. It gives me the original offensive version. So I'm going to stop there for now. I'm going to come back and do a second section here where we talk about something specific about using if-then-else to do something pretty complicated. Not super complicated, but something that's pretty common with pitch and catch. But for now, you get the basic structure. You ask something whether something is true, and if it's true, you do something, and if not, you do something else, or you don't do anything else. All right, we'll see you next time.